The Home Affairs Department is being taken to court over blocked IDs. The Children's Institute at the University of Cape Town will tomorrow provide evidence at the High Court in Pretoria as a friend of the court on how children whose parents' IDs have been blocked are affected. The Institute says parents with blocked IDs are unable to register their children's births or to help them get their own IDs. For more on this, we are joined by senior legal researcher at the Children's Institute, Paula Proudlock. Paula, thank you very much for your time. Just first of all, please explain to us what blocked IDs are and what would institute the department to actually block a person's ID.
Good afternoon, Masejo. The department blocks IDs because they believe them to be fraudulent, so they believe they were obtained by misrepresentation, or because there's an administrative error on the ID. So, for instance, Home Affairs made a mistake and they issued the same ID number to two different people. So those IDs can get blocked by Home Affairs, and that makes the ID unusable for the person who has been blocked.
You know, it's one thing if the ID is suspected to be fraudulent. Of course, in terms of the issues that we find ourselves in South Africa, I would assume that that needs to be investigated by Home Affairs. But if it's their own fault with a glitch on the ID?
Yes, those are the clients we are helping. We have clients who became duplicates because Home Affairs made an error when they issued their IDs. And we also have clients who had their identities stolen by somebody else, and that's how they became a duplicate. The problem is that Home Affairs stops both the fraudster and the victim of the identity fraud or the victim of the error. And while the minister, who was earlier on SAFM saying that it's an easy process to get unblocked and that people just need to come to Home Affairs, our experience from our clients is that it can take years to get yourself unblocked because some of the proof that Home Affairs is requiring from people to reprove who they are is not actually possible to obtain for those people. So many of the moms we represent are young women who were abandoned or orphaned when they were children, and so they can't produce their parents. And because they can't produce their parents and any proof from their birth circumstances, they can't actually fulfill the requirements that Home Affairs sets for unblocking your ID.
So what will be your arguments in court, especially now that you said that you've given this example of how difficult it'll be, juxtaposed to what you say the minister said in terms of how easy the process is?
We actually are in court today. I'm not there. My two colleagues are there. And the case has been argued today and tomorrow. And in court, what is being requested is simply that the department needs to pass law to outline the process that they follow to investigate an ID, and that they can't just block an ID without following due process of allowing, giving notice to the person, giving written reasons, allowing them to state their case, and making it possible for them to reprove their existence. At the moment, Home Affairs doesn't provide those procedural safeguards, and therefore they have blocked a lot of innocent people in the process because they haven't followed that due process.
How large is the magnitude? How many clients are you representing?
We actually only have 4 adults in the case with a number of children attached to those adults. But the Lawyers for Human Rights, who are the second applicant in the case, they've got 100 clients. Those are also adults. And behind each of those adults will be children. But the minister himself, in his affidavit, which was signed by the DG, admitted that there were 1.4 million IDs that were unblocked in May this year, probably as a result of the litigation. So by the press of a button, they unblocked those in May. At the end of July, there were 700,000 IDs that remained blocked. And those are the adults. So behind each adult, you'll have at least 1 or 2 children who are affected by that block on the adult's ID.
And you know, Paula, I'm going to have an interview with the spokesperson of the Gauteng Department of of Education soon, Steve Mabona, and I can just imagine, in terms of the parents trying to at least apply through the systems that are used for school placements, just trying to apply for their children. How many children have not been able to go to school because of this issue?
So, if you don't have a birth certificate, it is very difficult to get admitted to school, especially as the systems are moving more to online application processes. So, particularly in Gauteng and the Western Cape, where it's an online process, you end up at the back of the queue, and you are then placed at the last minute. And because schools are so full at the moment, and there aren't enough places in schools, particularly in your urban environments, we've seen that the children without birth certificates are being excluded from getting into school. If they do get in, they get in late. And so they've missed a big chunk of school. And we also seen that parents send their children out of the urban areas into the rural areas because it's easier to get into school there.
Yeah.
Without a birth certificate.
Paula, thank you very much for speaking to us. We'll obviously catch up with you probably early next week to find out when judgment will be handed down and exactly what Home Affairs has said in their argument. But obviously we'll speak to them as well. Paula Proudlock, the senior legal researcher at Children's Institute. All right, let's